When did the I crave attention kid go too far? He was a jerk. I had a couple of pet goats, and he would come over and bully them all the time. He'd poke them through the fence with sticks, throw rocks at them, spook them with loud noises, but he'd never go into the pen. He was too scared of them. He should have known better. He was 16. One day we are all inside, and we hear this blood-curdling scream. In comes the kid, screaming at the top of his lungs apostrophe the goat. The goat is after me. Help. We turn to see the big billy goat staring at him through the sliding glass door. Every once in a while it'd headbutt the glass. Now this was a very docile animal. He'd have never hurt a fly, but he was out for that boy's blood. It turns out that the kid had been torturing the goat. He had him pinned up against the wall of the pen throwing rocks and sticks at its testicles to see if he could hit them. The goat came after him, scaled the fence, and chased him across 3 acres of land and into the house. The kid waited for 2 hours for the goat to go away, but it never did. Anytime he opened a door to try to sneak away, the goat was right there trying to attack him. Eventually the goat disappeared, and the kid tried to sneak out a window feet first, and once again started screaming, because the goat was right there headbutting his backside as he climbed out. It was absolutely liberating. I knew this girl in high school who was the queen of obnoxious and attention-seeking behavior. She was constantly trying to get people's attention, from screaming loudly in the hall to crying hard over sad memes at lunch. She was so annoying, but unfortunately, many people bought and fed into her histrionics. Let's call her Cryface. I never really liked Cryface. She came off as fake and kinda rude. I tried to ignore her for the most part, but the absolute turning point for me was her over-the-top behavior at a choir concert junior year. It was 20 minutes before the concert was set to begin, and all the kids were practicing getting on the risers, about 100 people. Suddenly, Cryface's mom entered the auditorium, briskly walked to the director, and whispered something in his ear. The director nodded, and called Cryface off the riser. When Cryface got down, the mom whispered something to her. All of a sudden, Cryface let out a blood-curdling scream, and ran for the auditorium exit. She got halfway, before collapsing to the ground wailing. She kept yelling, "Oh my god, oh hi, oh my god," over and over again. The mom came up behind her, pulled her up by the elbow, and rushed out. Naturally, everyone in the choir thought something horrible had happened. Some friends had texted her, but Cryface would only respond with cryptic messages like "nothing will ever be the same," and "why couldn't it have been me?" Rumor spread that her father and little sister had burned to death in a car wreck. With a reaction like that, what else could it be? People were talking about organizing a carpool to attend the funeral, and taking friendship shifts so someone would always be available to comfort her. I even agreed to a couple shifts. Hell, the entire choir said a group prayer for her before the concert, and this was at a public school. We were also worried. Now, these thoughts would have been incredibly kind if that was what happened. But nope. Turns out Cryface's little sister was diagnosed with diabetes. The sister didn't go to the hospital. She didn't get sick and need medical attention. The family had only received a call that the scheduled medical tests came back positive for diabetes. The mom came to tell Cryface because the family had decided to skip the choir concert so they could meet with the doctor and talk about the medical diagnosis. TLDR, girl finds out her little sister has diabetes and might get more attention than her. So girl makes high school choir think her family died in a car wreck. Edit. Oh my god, oh hi, oh my god. I have a silver. Nothing will ever be the same. This definitely should have been me. Collapses to the ground wailing. But, yeah, thanks edit. I'm like so crying real life tears over this gold. Oh my god. So many real tears. I haven't cried this hard since I first saw Sad Peep. Wah. Faked her own kidnapping as a senior prank. Even got the attention of Amber Alert. Edit. My bad. Didn't give the whole story. I was being a lazy sheet when I posted this, but here is my recollection of events. Well, this is from my freshman year of HS. Was told by a relative who was a senior at the time, and that was a while ago, so some parts may be fuzzy. Here we go. So that year many of the senior pranks were the usual generic things. Toilet paper, the works. So this girl had this great idea for a prank, and to be a standout, faking her own kidnapping. Shortly after school one day in late May she called/texted her parents and friends at Warugal, hysterically telling them that a stranger shoved her in a truck and drove off. She said she was scared and please help her. The parents and friends wasted no time and immediately notified police. Eventually the Amber Alert was issued. She was later tracked down and found that evening. Turns out she was at the next city over hanging out at her boyfriend's house. She confessed and was promptly arrested. The following day it was discussed primarily by the upperclassmen and didn't make it to the freshman class until 6th period 2 days later. My ex-roommate did a whole lot of stupid shit for retention. She constantly posted things on social media like the world would be better off without me, nobody wants me alive, etc. But she always refused to get actual help. When her boyfriend broke up with her, she went around telling everyone that she broke up with him after he rapped her. She always bragged to people she had just met about how many guys she had been with, how much she loved weed and alcohol, etc. She got engaged to her Tinder fact buddy she had only known for a few months. And she made me homeless because her engagement was supposed to be a secret from her parents. They found out and she blamed me. So she made a whole bunch of shit up about me emotionally abusing her, even though that's what she was doing to me the entire time I lived with her. That way her parents would kick me out. They owned the loft we were staying in. I haven't spoken to her since I was kicked out, but from what I hear from other people, the psycho beach is going nowhere in life. She got kicked out of her first choice university, dropped out of community college after failing all of her classes her first semester, and has been stuck as a cashier at a shitty grocery store for the past 2 years. Oh, and her Tinder fact buddy broke the engagement with her right after I was made homeless. Guess he finally got a brain and realized she's insane. My old friend online, he used to say he was depressed and suicidal and did self-harm. Everyone thought they were ill. At first I did too, until I was looking up fake cuts on YouTube for Halloween and saw a cut that looked like his. Went back on Discord to look at the picture of the cut, and there I saw the pen ink and confronted him, but apparently he was rushed to an emergency room from that same coup and was put on suicide watch for 24 hours, but had his phone the entire time and couldn't take pictures of proof in the end. A few weeks later we were in a Discord server and I joined the public call there, and there he was. Yeah, a few weeks ago I lied to my old friend saying I got some cut and was in the emergency room. We talk daily still like real friends and not old friends. Then I said, oh really? Well then we're not talking anymore then, and he tried apologizing and saying he lied to then, but I was done with his bullshit. I blocked him and never talked to him again. This was December 2018. Edit. A few peoples keep asking for his name. All information I will put out about him is, I'm 75% sure his name was Angel. He should be 15 years old. Every time he was rejected by a girl, a guy I knew used to either have a fake medical emergency or send out a mass text saying he was about to kill himself. An example of the first case, a girl he was with for a grand total of 48 hours dumped him for having a hand-drawn hentai collection. She dumped him at her In-N-Out in front of all of us. He went out to his car first, and as we followed shortly after, we see his legs hanging out of his open car door, violently convulsing. Mid-seizure, he stopped and asked this girl to go to the hospital with him. She declined, rather nonplussed, and left. He kept it up for a few minutes after that, but made a speedy recovery once he realized she wasn't coming back. As for the second case, and the instance where he really went all out, there was a girl he was in love with for a few weeks, but hopelessly out of his league. He asked her out, and she said no. Our circle of friends get the mass text saying that he was at the Riverwalk Bridge, ready to jump. In the past, we'd find him after an hour or two at the local pizza joint or hiding at his mom's, but we raced down there nonetheless. We show up at the bridge and notice his glasses sitting on the handrail. I peer over the side and see this dude's Flavortown shirt. He always wore this black button up with flames on the bottom, discarded on the sidewalk. This is started to seem pretty serious, so we call the cops, his mom, etc. About 20 minutes later, we find him, shirtless, lying half in the waterette style, and pretending to be drowned. We had trouble reviving him. He was quite clearly breathing, but he suddenly regained consciousness after one of the cops gave him a sternum rub. We stopped hanging around him after that. One day when I'm middle school, there is this kid. Let's call him Joey. Joey is an attention-seeking loon that can't spend a minute without opening his mouth. He would always try to talk shit about other people, saying that he wants to fight them, but when they actually try to fight him, he backs down. He always disrupts the class by yelling out his Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Joey and I were in the same band class. It was one of those classes where 2 instrument groups would be paired. Yes, it was in 6th grade beginner's band. He played the clarinet and I played the trumpet. One day in band, we had to go one by one to do a full front and back page song paired with the opposing instrument. So my band director paired me up with Joey. We had to play the piece together. He played all of the wrong notes while I was doing good. When we got to the 74th measure, the director stopped us and told Joey to stop playing and told me to keep playing. As I played the other piece, Joey was red as a tomato. Then when I made it to the 60th measure, he started to make grunting sounds. The grunting turned into tapping his foot. The foot tapping turned to stomping. I noticed it, and everyone was looking at him in a what the fuck face. I stopped playing, and he just picked his clarinet up and started to play random notes. Then when everyone was telling him to stop, and the director took his piece away, he just turned twice as red. Then I shit you not, he just threw his clarinet at me full throttle. It didn't hit me, but it hit a girl sitting behind me. I went to go check on her, because it hit her pretty hard. If you held a clarinet before, it's sort of heavy. My director just grabbed him and took him to the principal's office. The girl's nose was bleeding bad, and we went to get napkins. Later on that day, we heard from a friend that he was suspended for 2 weeks for that and disrupting the class many times. Today, he dropped out of high school to become a rapper. I check his SoundCloud and his YouTube, and they aren't doing so good. I hope he has a secondary job, so he won't spend his whole life on rapping. I know this was long, and I don't even know if it belongs here. Just tell me, and I'll delete it. Edit. The girl is okay, she just had a bruise on her nose. I don't know if this counts, but here goes nothing. There is this girl I've known since around 1st grade. We'll call her Karen. Ever since I can remember, she's wanted to be special and popular and quirky. It was really faking annoying, but I let it slide the first few years of our friendship. She also copied everyone left and right if she thought that what they were doing would boost her social status. It did not. The first event in which I really noticed her habit of copying others was when we had a Teach the Teacher project in 3rd grade. I was always known for my ability to draw, and so I did an art class segment where I taught the class how to draw some little markers with faces. It was fun. I was absent the next day, so I didn't get to see some of my friends' presentations. I come to school a day after, and my friends run up to me telling me that Karen did the exact same thing, only she drew something from a book. I was pissed, but got over it. The next time she copied me was when I was really getting into Harry Potter. She invited me over for a sleepover and I accepted. I suggested she take the sorting hat test, and she got Hufflepuff. She did not accept this as an answer, though. She kept on insisting she was Ravenclaw, which is my house. Another time this happened was when I started to learn about the LGBT+ community. I told her about it, and she immediately went on Tumblr and started looking up the community there. She came up with being asexual. I wouldn't have minded if I hadn't mentioned how one of my close friends thought they were ace. She kept going on and on about how similar she was to this friend of mine, blah blah blah. She now is bi and has a girlfriend. Oh, and also is a total weeb and thinks watching anime is a personality trait. I could care less if she was bi, watched anime, or liked to draw. The thing that makes it frustrating is that it's obvious that she's just picking up these traits from her friends hoping that she'll be special. I'm no longer her friend, and neither are most of her former friends from elementary school. She has one friend though, who we'll call Deborah. Deborah completely encourages a type of crazy behavior Karen shows. Deborah is also bi, but is a nicer person, and not a total faking copycat. TLDR. Girl copies everyone around her hoping to be quirky, loses most friends because of it. Be yourself, don't be other people. This is a long one. Be prepared. This girl constantly lied about everything to get attention. Just to get a laugh, she'd often say, "Oh, I forgot. I'm allergic to whatever she just stuck in her mouth." She brought catnip to school where stupid kids would think it was marijuana, but she's then claim it helped with her severe depression from breaking up with her rising pop boyfriend. She'd constantly lie about the situation with her parents, saying she lived with her 17-year-old brother, who we'd never seen. So many other stories about her, but there's one that takes the cake for this. She normally got a lot of attention from other teens our age, 15 to 17. When she broke up with one of her many boyfriends, she saw this as encouragement to continue being with guys and doing stupid shit to get them to break with her, like sexting other guys, claiming to have gotten pregnant by one of his friends, and all around just being a terrible person. Eventually, word got around about how awful she treated her boyfriends and no one would even remotely consider being with her. I had friends that would go out of their way to find that random guy she was chatting to warn them about her. A couple sick facts just used her for sexting and stuff like that. That's what she wanted, though. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, so, after a couple of months, she finally lands another clueless guy, or so we thought, and they actually were together for a while, like, almost 6 months. Take into consideration that the average length of her relationships were about 1 week. This was pretty damn long. Well, big surprise, they broke up. And it was ugly. She had screenshots of him talking to this other girl, dick pics, their plans to meet up and have sex behind her back, and she showed it to me. Crying, sobbing, she got the most attention she's ever gotten. Ever. Everyone invited her to hang out with them, just to help her get her mind off of the sick guy who cheated on her. Well, I was starting to get suspicious of this story. So many holes, never seeing him in person, only in pictures. So I did my own kinda snooping. After an hour of searching for pictures and asking her close friends about this guy, I was able to finally get my hands on a picture of this guy. He looked so familiar. I've seen this guy before. I know it. So, I kinda just looked through the pictures on my phone, text conversations with this attention seeker, and I stumble across a picture of her brothers. Her older brother. It's the guy that cheated on her brother. I needed answers. I explained everything I found to this girl, and she finally came clean. She had paid her brother to pretend to be with her for a few months, $300. And he did it, and it worked. She got all the attention she wanted. Everyone felt so bad for her. She loved it. There were a couple of things that some fake friends of mine had told this girl, and she used it against me. Blackmailed me. I didn't give a damn. I could recover from the information she had on me, but she needed help. The next day, I went into my counselor's office and explained it to her. I haven't talked to her since, but from what I've heard she had to go to therapy for a couple of months, and supposedly is a lot better now. Yeah, sure. Still doing the exact same thing as before. Don't talk to that chick anymore. Trigger warning: my friend, who had been raped when she was a child, completely broke down when recounting the story to me. I knew she was an attention seeker and a liar, but I knew that was real. A couple of years later I saw exactly what her lying about being raped looked like. She pulled my then boyfriend and I aside before school started that day and told us she'd been raped over the weekend by our other friend who didn't know her. She was acting like it was a serious matter and that she was upset. But she was also being really casual and not nearly upset enough for the dramatic person she was, especially talking about such a sensitive subject and it being so recent. Now, before anyone starts screaming at me in the comments, no, this wasn't shock or the process of grief. She was acting the same way she always did when she lied. An explanation for his innocence aside from her blatantly lying, just to cover my butt from anyone outraged that I didn't inherently believe her. Again, he didn't know her at all, and she wasn't his type. I'm though. He was one of only 2 men in our entire friend group, and I had been alone and secluded with him for extended periods of time, countless times, since 1st grade, and we were in 11th at that point. I was a far more convenient and preferable target for him than her, yet I always felt completely safe when alone with him. She also said no when I asked if he was at all intoxicated. Jokes on her though, because he was always drinking. He brought a thermos of coffee mixed with whatever alcohol he happened to grab first that morning to school every day. A young alcoholic point anyway. I took her lie about being rapped by a friend of mine very seriously. I was very offended that she, a true rap victim, had the gall to lie to my face about such a thing. I set aside my personal bias toward the both of them and investigated the matter. I asked the guy she accused about her. He only knew that she lived somewhere in his neighborhood and had seen her walk past his house a few times. She had claimed that he rapped her in her kitchen. Why and how would he be in her kitchen if he didn't know any of her family or where they lived? I decided to wait and see if she gave me any more information about it before coming to a definite conclusion myself. But she never did. She never brought it up again, hadn't had herself checked out, hadn't involved police. Nothing. I very slowly cut my ties and contact with her after that day. I was tired of the lies and stress that came with being her friend. We had a foreign exchange student from Japan that had epilepsy. She got a lot of attention because A, she was a cute Japanese girl, and B, she had a pretty cool personality and was super smart. The I crave attention kid was apparently jealous and suddenly developed a super rare brain disorder that made her fall asleep randomly and see monsters and ghosts. She would pass out in the hallways and in class. She would say the demons were distracting her from the lessons and ask to be excused to the restroom to gather herself, then pass out in the bathroom for the rest of that period. She was caught by a teacher once and was put on the watch list for bad behavior. Before this development, she would pretend to be a cutter. She would talk about all the cuts she had and how she was such a dark and emotional person, blah blah blah. But everyone knew it was all an act. You know, the goth kids from South Park. Imagine that, but actually just doing it for attention. She even had the gall to accuse the Japanese girl of faking her illness during an epileptic episode. Edit, though of a better South Park analogy. Imagine if Eric Cartman was an emo chick. That's this girl in a nutshell. My brother and I went to high school with a girl who, while we never knew of any official diagnosis, I'm positive that she had histrionic personality disorder. She, for no apparent reason, tried to get a group of my brother and his friends in trouble for supposedly bullying her. The principal calls them all together for a talk and lays down the law regarding how they were treating her. Only problem is that literally everyone in that room sat there and said, what the fuck? No one was bullying her. No one was even sure why they were included in this list of people who supposedly were. Hell, as my brother even said that most likely, when a group of dudes are bullying someone and are approached to stop, at least you'll get a yeah, okay response out of at least some of them. There will at least be some acknowledgement. This was a situation in which literally everyone called into that meeting had no idea what the fuck was even going on. After that, she definitely made herself a target for bullying. She swallowed a watch battery. It exploded in her stomach, and the ambulance had to come get her in the middle of school, pump her stomach, etc. Of course she was talking about it the next day. It just gave her more attention. Most likely falsely accused a guy of rap. The charges never led anywhere because several witnesses at that party had said that there was no reason to believe that it wasn't consensual. Of course that's not concrete evidence that a rap hadn't occurred, but it's unlikely that one did. And given her past track record of reliability, she damaged her own credibility. There are just some of the most outstanding doozies. She was always lying, snitching, starting drama, trying to insert herself into conversations, etc. She definitely had problems and was a known compulsive liar. I'm a little late to the party, but here goes. A while back my mom's friend visited. I was 10 or 11 at the time and brought along her kids. I was having a blast and I had brought my DS along to my grandma's house. So I'm having a grand old time showing the other kids Pokemon White 2, mainly showing off my level 100 bug thing, the purple bug. I forgot what it was called. So then my little brother Alan comes along and asks me to play. I say no. He does this again and again until he finally says in his annoying little 5-year-old voice, "If you don't play with me, I'm going to pee on you." I chuckle a little bit and shoo him away. You can probably guess where this is going. So after showing off my bug stats, I feel something warm running down my back. I turn around and this little sheet has his baby dick out, pissing on my back. I jump up, screech mom. And she comes running around the side of the house, and Alan is still running after me trying to piss on me more, laughing with a sheet-eating grin the entire time. I run behind my mom, and she is livid. She marches him inside by the ear, and after a few seconds we hear a loud whoop, followed by crying. After a couple more smacks, mom comes back out of the house and gets me a new shirt and puts the piss shirt in the washer. I go back to whatever I was doing, and eventually Alan comes out with puffy red eyes and tear stakes down his face. Sorry, he mumbles, looking down at his feet. I tell him it's okay, and that was that. I don't remember much else, but I do remember my mom telling grandma about how she got the wooden spoon and made him go bare butt. Those were the worst. TLDR. Brother pisses on me and gets the spoon. Oh boy, had one dude like hat in my 8th grade class. So he was athletic and strong. He said he was the strongest, but he was not, and he lied to everyone, hurt most of the people he knew, physically or emotionally, and was pretty much faked up in his head. So he had some knee condition which caused something in his knee to pop out if there was too much physical activity. Now in my class, there were 2 people that had this condition, him and one of my friends. My friend, F, had this condition way worse than him, and his condition didn't really affect him, unlike my friend. So once during winter, that dude, let's call him W, jumped from a snowbank. It was maybe 2 meters high, in the snow. W jumped multiple times, and he had nothing. Fast forward 3 hours later, we had English class and our English teacher, F, was fairly attractive, and it was clear that W had a crush on her. So during class time, he pretends to be in pain and fake cries because jumping from the snowbank hurt his knee. The funny part is, before English class, he was running, and then he went like, oh, I'm not supposed to run, I'm supposed to be hurt. He also faked a concussion and broken ribs. LMAO. I used to be friends with a boy Crazy Beach from another school. She was a straight up creepy thought. She bragged about how she used to date multiple people online at once, and they were a lot older. I think she was in middle school at the time point. She met some of my guy friends at school through Key Club and thought they were all cute. Her socially inept self kept spam texting them and bothering them to the point they just made a bunch jokes about her. Then, she pretended that she was never obsessed with them and went, yuck, all the guys at your school are so crusty, they won't stop talking about me or leave me alone. She posted super toxic things on her private Instagram account, like how much she hates her mom and wants her to die, or she talk shit on someone, etc. She went super far when she apparently fell in love with a football player at my school who met her to comfort her when she made a post about wanting to kill herself. He wasn't ready for a relationship because he was extremely busy with football, school, and physical therapy. Since he has a major injury, he needs to focus on getting better. But no, she didn't respect that. She kept sending him nudes and he eventually just gave in and tried dating her. She used me as a third wheel to go on a date with him, and they were freaking weird. Anyways, after one faking week, his schedule caught up with him, and he was forced to break up with her. She was really hard to deal with. She was crying all the time and talking about suicide. I tried my hardest to comfort her and convince her not to. I was hoping she'd just get over him, since it was just 1 week, but it got worse. She would randomly text me, telling me she was cutting herself or tying a noose. I couldn't enjoy myself when I was out with friends because I was busy trying to help her. It was as if she wasn't even trying to get better. I had recently gotten dumped by my long-term boyfriend who I thought was my soulmate. I was miserable for about 3 days, just crying and listening to music, but I got right back up. I was frustrated at why she would do this to herself over a week-long relationship. Nothing I did helped. If me trying to be gentle and comforting didn't help, I tried being realistic. I called her an idiot for trying to kill herself over a short relationship and that she should get over him. She didn't like that and stopped coming to me. We are not friends anymore because one time we were planning a small hangout to the movies and I asked her if I could invite a guy I was seeing. She said sure, but we should sit away from her and her friend if we were going to make out and stuff because she knew I liked doing that kind of stuff with guys. I was infuriated from that. This bitch had the audacity to say that to my face. Might I add that she was trying to invite both a guy that she liked and her friend, and if that guy didn't show up, she was going to flirt with the friend? I just cancelled the hangout and went to another movie theater with my guy. I just stopped talking to her. One day, she blocked my account and posted on her private about me, sheet talking me and making a shit ton of things up, making me look like a slut and a snake. My friend who followed her showed me point what a toxic, horny bitch. Also, on a positive note, fast forward 9 months, I'm still dating the same guy. TLDR ex-friend flaunted suicide over a 1-week relationship. Was a camp counselor and out on a retreat. We camped a few days in the mountains away from the camp. We were all settled down a little before pitch black nighttime rolls in. Me, the other adult counselor, and 10 kids aged 10ish are just kicking it when one of the kid goes wide-eyed and silently points at something behind my back. A deer has wandered up to us and is just standing there 5 feet away, just looking at us. It was faking magical. I could hear her breathing, and I made eye contact with her. Time stood still, and we were all entranced. This was a camp about appreciating nature, so all the kids were as impressed as if like Mickey Mouse and Batman had shown up. We all stood in perfect silence for 5 seconds appreciating the rarity of the moment. Kids standing still with the firewood bundles in their arms. One kid halfway bent to the ground to pick up a bag of marshmallows. One kid kneeling still where he had been tying his shoes. We were all receiving a kid. I hear one kid behind me sigh exasperatedly and jump to his feet, and my blood begins to boil because I know who it is. Stupid sheet, and I know he is going to ruin this on purpose because everyone is focused on something that isn't him. He hits the deer in the faking head with a rock and everyone goes nuts yelling at him, which makes him happy. He is grinning ear to ear and dancing and laughing like a madman cause their attention was all he wanted. It's just a stupid deer. It's not like you've never seen a deer before. Besides, no one was going to listen to my stories with a stupid deer around. His stories include demanding complete silence while he relives entire episodes of the TV cartoon Bionicles. I looked at the other counselor and we were both thinking the exact same thing. Murder. I forgot that this happened until I read the question. TW, bad home life stuffs? While reading this, keep in mind this took place in 6th grade. When I was in JH, there was this girl who was pretty boy crazy. I'll call her Denny. She fell in love with the young uncle of my best friend, who I'll call Chick. Our school was out in the boonies, since the children of the farmers needed a place to go to school. Chick lived about 2 miles away from said school. One spring, Chick's uncle came out to visit. Denny, who had fallen in love with Chick's uncle, had devised a plan to go out and see the uncle, who I'll from now on call Uncle. She decided that athletics period would be a great time to run away from the school, since we had a substitute coach that day. Denny had told Chick and I about it, but we figured that she wasn't actually going to. Well, while Chick and I were walking around the track, Chick's dad pulls up to the school in his underwear to yell at Chick. He had thought it was Chick's fault. Needless to say, Denny got in loads of trouble. About a week later, Denny had dragged me, Chick, and our friend Patty to the girls' dressing room at 8ish in the morning. Now I'm not too sure if Denny had lied about this or not, but she showed us a big bruise on her thigh and said that her dad had done that to her as a punishment for running out of school. This could have been Macup, but I'm not too sure if it was or wasn't. It became this whole thing where she would tell the 3 of us with more markings. She later started to hurt herself. In the end, we told our nurse, who had called CPS on her family. She didn't show up the next year, but she did show up 8th grade year. Though I spent a lot of time with her 8th grade year, we never talked about that again.